Well, welcome back to our second episode in our tips for what to bring, what gear to get, and we're concentrating today on coasteering and river hiking. Now in Hong Kong, we tend to hike between November and April, and then from May through to the end of October. It's coasteering season, or stream hiking, when the rivers are full, and also we have, about 450 plus kilometers of coastline that we can explore as a coasteer. Now we're going to give you 10 essential things that we think you should get. Now remember, we have other episodes that include other things that you may want to bring as well, but these are specific for coasteering and river hiking. Now when it comes to clothing, we recommend almost the same tips that we had for the base layer in hiking. You want something that doesn't chaff, that is very lightweight and quick drying, and that wicks the sweat away from the body. Now we also suggest that you look at potentially long sleeves. It may be counter intuitive, but because we're going to be in the water, we're going to find that long sleeves isn't that hot. In fact, it's going to keep you cooler as you come out. These will also provide UV protection against the sun, which you're going to be in all day, and a much stronger sun in the summer, of course. Now, other things to remember with clothing is that you are going to get them scratched up. So if you're going to wear a wetsuit in the winter, if you go coasteering in the winter, put an old pair of shorts over the top. That will just save your wetsuit. So whatever you wear, don't be afraid to lose it, because when you come back, it might have a hole in it. Now, of all the activities we do on drone and phone, we find coasteering and stream hiking the most dangerous. So a helmet is a must, and there's a few things you need to consider when thinking about helmets. First is to check the safety regulations on it. When you go to buy it, make sure it has been approved to be used in Hong Kong. Next thing is make sure it can float and it doesn't have any sponge in it that's going to soak up the water because it's going to get wet. Floating means that if you lose it, you're going to be able to grab it. It's not going to sink to the bottom. We normally look for lightweight climbing helmets or kayaking helmets, which should do both those things. And then finally, just make sure it fits well. This one's got a nice little strap at the back that I can tighten up, and it's got good straps underneath here that I can clip on, make sure it's nice and tight, it's comfortable, and it's not stopping my field of view. Then I can go off and have a safe coasteer or stream hike. Now when it comes to shoes, you have two basic options: either to go for an old pair of running shoes with very good grip that you don't mind ruining, or buy a specialty pair. Now when you go for a specialty pair, don't buy those cheap water shoes or the reef shoes, as they're called, that are designed for the beach. You need a good pair of coasteering or stream hiking shoes. These will have a special grip on the bottom, like the Hydro Grip from Vibram, which is designed for wet rock surfaces. You'll find you'll enjoy it far more if you have a good grip, something that we found out the hard way. Also, wear a pair of socks, because if you're going to go for a long day coasteering, you may find sand and other things get into your shoe, and it can be very uncomfortable by the end of the day. So just find a pair of quick dry socks you can put underneath, and that way you're going to feel very safe on the rocks. Now another piece of essential equipment, particularly if you're not a strong swimmer, is a Buoyancy Aid, or a personal flotation device as they call them. Now this will have four major benefits. The first is it will help if you're jumping from high distance into the water to reduce how far down you go, so you can jump into shallower water more safely. The second thing is it's going to help you getting out of the water when you're going to climb out onto rocks as you go from one place to the other. Thirdly, if you're not a strong swimmer, it's going to help you with that swimming, which means you're less tired for the day, means you can go longer. And finally, probably most critically, is that if by any chance you do have a bad accident and you fall into the water, possibly unconscious, this is going to keep you afloat and allow someone to get to you fairly quickly. Now, when looking for these, you want to find something that has got plenty of arm movement. You're going to need that for doing all of your climbing, and you may want something with some pockets on it as well. The one thing to remember though is that if you have a large area at the back, you're not going to put your backpack on top of it. So you're going to have to carry it separately and put it on when you go into the water. Now, if you're going to be going out for more than an hour or so, you're going to need a backpack to carry your water as well as the other supplies for the day. Now, when it comes to backpacks, we made some bad mistakes early on buying what we thought were waterproof bags that turned out not to be. We also found that we got holes in them very quickly, and we went through them because of the fact that when you're coasteering, you're on rough rocks and these things are going to break. We actually quite like these very simple Decathlon bags. They are cheap, they are waterproof, and they do the job. They don't have waist belts, which you might want, and they don't have an outside pocket for the water, the two things that I would try to look for if I could spend a little bit more money. But effectively, you want a bag that is going to keep your stuff dry and also potentially act as a float if you're in need when you're in the water. Also be aware that these are going to take a lot of battering. We found with our early backpacks that we got holes in the bottom, which of course made them unwaterproof. So you want a very rugged bag. Now, one of the things we find when we go coasteering is we come back with cuts and grazes because of these kind of sharp rocks that we encounter along the way. And one of the things that's going to make a big difference is a simple pair of gloves for two reasons. One, because it's going to protect you against cuts on your hand that can be very painful. And secondly, when it's summertime, it's going to get very hot. The rock's going to get hot. It's going to be difficult to touch it, and therefore it's going to save you getting burnt as well. So we recommend just a simple pair of garden gloves like these, quite cheap, because by the time you come back, they're going to be ripped to shreds anyway. So you don't want to go out with a nice pair of expensive gloves. Just something like this is going to make a big difference to your coasteer. Now, when it comes to coasteering, things will get wet, and if you don't have good protection, you're going to find you lose electric equipment, phones and cameras and all sorts of things. We've lost plenty over the time we've been coasteering through not securing them properly. Now, our advice firstly is to check that your bag has no zips on it. Zips are pretty well bad news in most cases. You want those fold down backpacks that keep the water out. Secondly, we put a dry bag inside our backpack in case the backpack gets a hole in it or for any other reason. We'll put our equipment inside another dry bag, double bagging to ensure that it stays dry. If one gets breached, the other one will protect, and then inside that we will use things like these Ziploc bags for anything that's really important. Triple bagging, as we say. If you have phones, we suggest having a case like this. Even if the phone is waterproof, I would always make sure it's doubly bagged up just in case. Salt water can also cause it problems. So when it comes to waterproofing, anything that you don't want to lose, make sure it's triple bagged. Now, we don't offer medical advice on drone and phone, but we find if you're out for a full day in Hong Kong in the summer, you're going to sweat a lot and lose a lot of body salts. Personally, I find I'm starting to cramp, I'm getting a bit nauseous, headaches, this kind of thing, and I find having some electrolytes in my bag really gives me a bit of a pickup and keeps me going to the end of the day. Now, for electrolytes, you're going to find three basic components: sodium, potassium and calcium. The sodium allows me to be able to absorb more water, so I've got to keep drinking water. That's very, very important, of course, throughout the day. Now, you can get these in bottles, but we prefer you don't buy those and put more bottles out there, that you get either these tablets or sachets that you can find in any good sports shop. They'll also have some carbohydrates in there to give you an energy boost, keep you going, make you enjoy the full day out on the rocks. Now, as you jump from rocks into the water when you're coasteering or river hiking, you're going to find that anything that you have outside of your backpack is susceptible to loss. And believe me, we've learned the hard way. Now, everything that we have outside the backpack must have a floaty on it. One thing losing it, the second, if it goes in the water, you've lost it forever. So this GoPro, for example, if I drop it, I don't have to worry because it's now floating and I can find it and pick it up. The same with the phone with a floating cable on it, and the same with my sunglasses with this floaty here. Again, I can drop these in the water and I will not have to worry about them. So anything outside the backpack, make sure it has some kind of floating device attached to it so it doesn't sink to the bottom. One of the things that we found has really enhanced our coasteering experience is a pair of goggles. Now they have three major benefits. The first is simply to keep the salt out of your eyes, because your eyes can start to sting after a long day in the summer coasteering. The second is that it can show any potential dangers, any jellyfish that are in the water, any sea urchins or barnacles as you're trying to climb out. And finally, it's just fun to be able to see all the sea life around. In Hong Kong, particularly in some areas when the water is clear, you can see a myriad of sea life below you, which makes the whole experience a lot more enjoyable. Well, that's it for this episode. Don't forget, we have 4 other episodes with essential gear, and many of the things we list there are appropriate for coasteering and stream hiking as well, so be sure to check them out. For now, my name's DJ, and this is Drone and Phone.